Hello, and welcome to today's session. My name is Christy, and I'm the marketing manager for our Master of Science in Learning Design and Technology online degree program. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Leveraging the LDT Degree for Career Advancement. We're excited to dive into this panel discussion with a few of our alumni who have done just that. So before we get started, we just have a couple of quick housekeeping notes for you. In just a moment, I'll go ahead and introduce the team that you see here today, and Dr. Evans will provide a quick overview of our program. We have a set of questions that we will have our alumni panel here discuss, and after that, we'll share a few quick slides about the program if you are looking to get started your education journey with us. We will be monitoring the chat, and we'll plan to have time at the end of the presentation to address those questions, but feel free to drop in questions at any time throughout the presentation. This session today will be recorded, and you can expect an email to be sent your way with that recording by the end of the day today. So now that we've got those housekeeping notes covered, we'll introduce our presenters. All right. Your academic director for the MS-LDT program is Dr. Lisa Evans. Dr. Evans has over 30 years of experience in the field in a variety of different areas, and she taught her first online course over 20 years ago, and she received her PhD in instructional technology from the University of Virginia. So welcome, Dr. Evans.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm delighted that we have some of our recent MS-LDT alumni joining us, and thank you, Christy, for kicking us off.
Okay, and then joining us from our alumni panel, we have Lizzie. Lizzie is a Learning and Development Program Manager for the Center of Organization Effectiveness. Marlena is a Senior Curriculum Designer with Niagara Bottling, and Andrew is a Senior Instructional Designer for Performance Technical Documentation Services. So welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Okay, and I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Evans to talk a little bit about the LDT program.
Yeah, so this is just a very brief overview. There are more than 3 reasons to pursue your learning design and technology learning journey with the University of San Diego, but these are 3 that really come top of mind. We begin with and carry throughout our program the opportunity to build a research and theory-based foundation. So as you enter the program and move through the program, you will build foundational knowledge about and the ability to speak about designing for how people learn. So it will affect the decisions that you make, the instructional and learning design and e-learning design decisions that you make, and we're really find that as really like a strong feature of our program, so that you're not only know what to do, but know why you're making those decisions. We're also practitioner oriented. So even though we have our research and theory-based foundations, we know that employers are seeking specific knowledge and skill sets, and that's what you'll get in our program. So we do pay attention to the skills that employers are seeking and make sure you have the opportunity to experience those to various degrees throughout your time in the program, and building instructional learning and e-learning design experiences along the way, which leads to capstone, where you have the opportunity to complete your master's degree program in a project-based capstone experience, where the 2 main deliverables are the production or completion of a professional instructional design portfolio, where you will showcase many artifacts that you've had the opportunity to develop in the program. And you'll also have the opportunity to design and develop an online course. So we're very excited about being able to offer project-based experiences throughout the program. There's not a thesis to graduate, even though you will get educational research experience in a couple of our classes. But we know that being able to go out into the professional world seeking a position into the field or promotion within the field, that the opportunity to build these very practical skills and project-based experiences really is a fantastic launch pad into the field or promotion within the field.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Evans. I meant to also say, I know we have a variety of people joining us here on the webinar. Some of you are current students, some of you are just thinking about the program, some of you are in the application stages. So we would love to hear from you and let us know where you're joining in from, where you are in your career journey. Go ahead and say hello in the chat if you wouldn't mind. So we'll go ahead and jump into our panel discussion. Our first question is, what was your career before pursuing instructional or learning design? And Andrew, I'll go ahead and have you kick this one off.
Sure. So before I was ever formally in the L&D field, I was a claims adjuster, but I kept finding myself being kind of gravitated towards development projects for my peers. And that's kind of what led into joining L&D.
Great. Marlena.
Yeah, before joining the learning and development space, I worked for financial institutions. I was a personal banker, operations supervisor, and towards the end, right before I joined the space, I was a facilitator. I taught in-person training for new hires at a financial institution, and that kind of, got my feet wet a little bit into what the learning and development space would be. But yeah, I was a facilitator for quite some time.
Great, thank you. And then Lizzie.
Yeah, so I did a lot of things before. Most predominantly, I worked in different kind of like coordinator or admin roles within higher education. And then I also have a background in the arts as well. So, and I always gravitated as well, just like Andrew, gravitated towards creating, job aids and training documents and trying to create things that would help a team be sustainable beyond my tenure there, So, and I did an internship in my undergrad actually for some curriculum development and fell in love with curriculum in that kind of context. And so when I was during COVID, when I was kind of thinking, well, like a lot of us were thinking during COVID, what am I doing with myself? I thought back to that experience in the internship and was like, that was so much fun. I wonder if I could pursue something like that. And when I looked into it, I found this program and was like, this is the way I want to go. So
Okay. Thank you. All right, our next question here. What do you do in your current ID/LD related position? Lizzie, I'll kick it right back to you if you don't mind.
Sure. So I'm not a traditional instructional designer in my current role, but my education and background certainly helped me get this position. So I transitioned out of higher education in October, where before I was an instructional design and curriculum specialist at a university, and I decided, I kind of want to expand beyond a university setting and just try out a different field. So this position, which is more of a project manager position, kind of appeared, and I was referred, and I was like, this actually might be really good. And they were looking for someone that specifically had a background in curriculum, LMS, which is a lot of what I did before. And so now my primary role is project management on various learning and development projects that we do mostly in the public sector. So we work with different local governments, cities, counties, et cetera. And then I'm also working on some other projects internally, such as one of the biggest ones would be helping us find an LMS solution for how we're going to grow and expand in the future. And I get to kind of think strategically about that as well. So this has been really fun.
Great, thank you. Marlena.
Yeah, so when I was a trainer, corporate trainer, facilitator, I would teach new hire training for about 2 weeks. And the other 2 weeks of the month, I had the opportunity to kind of create some job aids, spruce up my PowerPoints, think of new activities for the classes. And I really found myself enjoying that piece a lot more than being in front of a class for 2 weeks. So I was a part of the program already. I think this had to be my third or fourth semester. And a little bit of the burnout had finally sunk in, where I was like, I can't keep teaching new hire training and just going through the cycle of a new class, same thing, new class, same thing. So I started to look for a specific curriculum designer position where I would be able to start leveraging or start using so much of the information that we were gaining through the program. And as part of my interview, I actually demonstrated the first course we developed with Dr. Evans. So this had to be LDT 500A and 500B. So I took my first e-learning course and like, oh, do you have anything to show us? And I said, yes, I do. So I showed them my first course. I showed them the style guide that I developed during class, and they really, really loved everything. So I've been with Niagara Bottling now for about 2 years. It's a manufacturing technology company. So my role is designing and developing the learning experiences that will align with the organizational goals to really meet the needs of our team members. It is transaction. It's a lot of systems training, but I go through the entire process from start to end, from developing the design strategy. So we do needs analysis, really outlining the instructional approach, developing those learning objectives, and then we go into the more fun part of it, which is the content development. So I get to work with Articulate. We use a ton of different tools, but we create simulations, videos. So yeah, I get to do most of that. I develop a lot of learning resources, and that's really the bulk of my job in this current role.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Andrew.
Yeah. So before while I was still in the program, I was the learning manager at an insurance company, and it was very small. So I was kind of a jack of all trades, kind of like Marlena, doing new hire training and instructional design and LMS admin and whatnot. Once I finished the program, I decided that I really wanted to specialize, and e-learning is just something that I really gravitated to. So in my current role, I'm primarily working in Storyline, creating e-learning courses, safety courses at the Disneyland Resort. So it's kind of cool. I get to go into the rides. We have a special 360 camera. So I take pictures literally just walking along the ride path. And then we come back and in Storyline kind of assemble these courses where they can essentially virtually walk through the ride without actually being in the ride, because they can be kind of dangerous, and we can't really have people walking through the rides at 2 p.m. But we also don't want them to have to come in at 2 a.m., which is what they were doing before. So that's basically what I'm doing now, is we're taking old curriculum and modernizing it, and kind of using all of the instructional design principles that we learned in the program to give our cast members meaningful access to the rides without actually being in them.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Lisa's, Dr. Evans is right. IDs, LDs, e-learning professionals are indeed everywhere. Okay, question 3. How have you leveraged the MS-LDT degree to advance your career? So you touched on this a little bit, but if you could dig in a little bit more. Marlena, could you get us started?
Yeah, of course. If I can think back to when I was just in the facilitator role and I would be tasked to create a job aid or revamp our PowerPoint, I always thought to myself, there has to be a rhyme or reason of the order of things or how people will take in the information. So the program, the LDT program, really helped me understand and use the different learning theories. And I've been able to really understand how people learn. And I've been able to apply evidence-based instructional strategies in my, development for engaging and impactful training programs. And if I could think specifically, because I was trying to, before we joined the panel, I was like, what are some of the tools that I use to this day? And there's so many, but just to name a few, obviously in LDT 500, we used a objective activity assessment crosswalk. So it kind of aligns your objectives with what type of activity, with how the learner will be assessed. And I use that all the time to this day. And I always get positive feedback from the stakeholders or SMEs because they're able to see the vision up front and get an understanding for, okay, what are they going to do? How are we going to test them? What is the outcome? The program, this would have to be LDT 545. We did a deep dive into Kirkpatrick model of evaluation. And prior to the program, I would hear people tell me, oh, did you do a level 1? Did you, create a survey? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. I had no idea there was like a real thorough process to this. So through the program, I was able to, one, learn the theory behind Kirkpatrick and really do a deep dive into, okay, how can I use that? And how can I make this an impactful training program that will also kind of meet the stakeholders' needs or expectations? So really, all in all, it was a lot of the resources that the program provided to us, whether that was like a model that we can use, a template. A lot of the templates I still use to this day, but really just understanding how people learn.
Great. Lizzie, could you jump in?
Yeah, so I'm thinking back to when I first got accepted into the program. I added the master's to my resume and then expected graduation and started applying to jobs before I even started the program. And that's how I got my first curriculum specialist role. They took a chance on me because I had very, very little experience. But that really helped get the ball rolling. And I learned, I started this program and I started that job within 2 weeks of each other. And I think I learned, exponentially more by having both things going at the same time, because there would be something I'd learn in class and then I would immediately apply it to my job situation. The program was so well designed and is so well designed and really shows the whole array of how instructional design, learning design can be applied in so many facets. Something that I used a lot in my previous position was the Bloom's taxonomy and learning objectives, because in curriculum in higher education, we have a whole governance process, and part of my position was to help with curriculum changes and writing learning outcomes and helping coach faculty on their courses and their course development and their outcomes. And so I became a bit of a ninja with learning outcomes and really, really just like nerded out on all of that. And it was so much fun. And at the end, I think the result of that was that I didn't really have a lot of maybe positional authority in that role, but I did have a lot of respect from the faculty that I worked with, and they would often seek my advice and listen to what I had to say, because I could back it up with theory and with the knowledge that I had from this program. So I'll end there.
Great, thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us kind of fall into this space by happenstance. A lot of times you just seem to be the most knowledgeable person or the person willing to train others. And so we just kind of pick up, you kind of learn PowerPoint skills and kind of how to facilitate a course, but you don't really always understand the fundamentals. And so when I was in this course, during the capstone, I actually found out that I was going to have to find a new job. And so it was kind of kismet, I graduated, and a few months later, I was out in the job field. And what I really found right away was that having I don't want to even say the foundation, just the incredible amount of information and development that came from this program, it positioned me as an expert. So that when I was in that interview, when questions came up, I could answer them not, I didn't have to give fuzzy answers. I didn't have to give theoretical answers. I could give really solid evidence-based answers, because everything from start to finish in this course sharpened my skills. And you can interview for something called an instructional designer or a learning specialist or whatnot. Every single company is going to have a different definition of what that is. And you have to go into the interview prepared pretty much for anything. A lot of times you don't really know what it is that you're going to be getting into. But I don't think that there was a single interview that I went to where I wasn't armed with the information to give them the information they want. But to be honest, knowing what I know now, during the interview and kind of, I was able to vet companies out and kind of sift through jobs that I found out during the interview I didn't want. And that was really important because sometimes you take a job and then you're like, well, gosh, if I had only realized how my skills were going to be used or not used, I wouldn't have taken this job. So now that I have a position in instructional design, just every single day, I rely on what I know. And it was great. I just published a course in Space Mountain. And during it, I made the decision to use formative assessments. And so knowledge checks throughout rather than one final summative assessment at the end. And my boss asked me, well, why did we do that? And just to be able to explain to him very quickly with evidence-based information as to why I was doing it, he was like, yeah, that's super strategic. It makes sense. It benefits the business. It hits all of our learning objectives. Good job. And there was no question about it. And I don't think that before I had the program that I would have been able to articulate why I did that. I would have just said, well, it sounded right. But now I can actually say this is why. And that is so much more solid.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, next up. What is something you learned or experienced in the MS-LDT program that you carried into your professional practice? Lizzie, could you get us started?
What haven't I carried? That's the better question. I kind of alluded to this before, so I'm trying to think of something additional to add. But I think what the theoretical foundation really, really did help me and the way that my career has kind of shifted. Okay, here's what I'll say. I wasn't sure if I was going to say this, but I got about halfway through the program and I hit this funny wall and I said, do I really want to be an e-learning developer? This might be controversial to say, but I said, that's not really what I want to do. I like the design part of e-learning and Articulate and everything, but I said, I think I want to lean more into the organizational development side of things and more into the working with people and the project management and program management. And so having that in my heart, I kind of shifted my focus a little bit with what and the good thing about this program is that I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't gone through it. Because when I started, I thought I want to be an instructional designer in all of its traditional kind of facets with, and it took me experiencing it to go, maybe that's not actually what I want, but I still want to be in the field adjacent to it. So I think that was a really big takeaway that I've taken with me, and it helped me pivot a bit in the types of jobs that I was applying for and looking for to transition out of higher ed and into what, so that helped me with that. That's right, Lisa. You definitely helped me evolve my professional identity. There was a lot of focus on professional identity, and that was like I'll say the metacognitive elements of that really did help me stay in alignment with who I am, what my strengths are, and where I wanted to go.
Beautiful. Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest aha moment or the aha course was LDT 530. It is called Learning Media Design. That course is all about making sure that when you are designing courses that they're accessible. And when we think about accessibility, you usually think about making sure that the course is accessible to folks maybe with visual or auditory deficits. But it talks about so much more. It's making sure that the course is accessible to maybe folks who are neurodivergent, or folks who have socioeconomic disadvantages, or folks maybe where English isn't their first language. And so we talk about just designing the course from the ground up to make sure that it is accessible to everyone. And you can't plan for every single possibility because you just don't know who your learner is going to be tomorrow, but you sure can put a plan in place. And I absolutely love that, just being able to design a course that was that respectful of learners. And honestly, my stakeholders don't know that this is happening because it happens at the root of the course. And if you just get into the practice of building the course from the ground up, making sure that you're always taking these considerations into mind, at first it is hard. It is so difficult. But once you get it going, it just comes and it becomes second nature. And the great thing about it is, as you're going through ADDIE and you're having to redesign your courses, you find out that if you just design the course from your learner's perspective, you have to revise it a whole lot less. So it is an amazing tool. I think that that's just one of the biggest takeaways and the things that I've put in my place. And I don't want to say it separates me from my peers, but I'm saying it. It does. It makes a big difference.
That's great. Marlena?
Yeah, I think Andrew mentioned it a little bit, but it really taught me the importance of a learner-centered design. And I think back to LDT, it had to be 520, Professor Lunding, which she taught us about a cognitive load or like cognitive overload. And I was just blown away because I was always such an advocate for the learner, but I had a hard time kind of articulating that in a way that the stakeholders or the SMEs would understand, and kind of, it was very difficult to get their buy-in because, like Professor Lynn, you mentioned, they want to throw everything in the kitchen sink, like everything is important, everything needs to be included. But I was really able to drive the importance of having that learner-centered approach to our design and managing cognitive load because there's so much science to it, right? There's only so much the learner can really take on at one time. And I was able to really, one, advocate for the learner, but really have the buy-in of my team to implement new approaches like, hey, maybe this doesn't have to be a full-on e-learning course. Why don't we break it down into micro-learnings? Or how is the learner going to use this information instead of what do they need to know? We switched that mentality from what do they need to know to what do they need to do. Mm-hmm. And it was like night and day. We got a lot more positive feedback from our curriculum, whether it was a micro-learning, a video that we put together. So it was wonderful for me to be able to articulate that information or put that into some way that the stakeholders would understand. And if I could say one big thing that I took from the program is confidence. It really just gives you the confidence. It puts you in a new level where you feel encouraged to speak up for the learner too in these big meetings or with very important stakeholders, because you know what you're talking about and you can back that up with, the evidence and the science behind it. So that was my biggest takeaway.
Thank you. Okay. What is one thing you wish you had known or a question you wish you had asked about ID work before you started your current position? Andrew, if we can have you kick this one off.
Sure. So one thing I wish I would have known is just the importance of staying relevant. You're going to get through this. You're going to leave with an amazing portfolio. And let me tell you, the portfolio is one of the most important things. When I was interviewing, the number of employers that were shocked that I had a portfolio was kind of discerning because I'm like, who's applying without a portfolio? So that is going to give you your number one advantage. But things are changing. AI is happening, and things are changing. I thought that Camtasia was the best thing ever, and now I'm hearing CapCut is where you need to be learning. So just stay relevant, learn the tools, follow influencers on LinkedIn and TikTok, find out what's going on. If you have ATD in your area, 100% join your local ATD chapter, and go to the virtual meetings if you can't make the in-person meetings. What else did I have here? And then practice your skills. One thing that I did, I mentioned following influencers, is I really wanted to improve my PowerPoint skills because my graphic skills are not very good. And a 30-second video on TikTok showing you how to use like the merge feature in PowerPoint makes beautiful slides. I had never learned that before. But this technology keeps on getting better and bigger, and knowing what's going to be tomorrow versus what's just kind of a flash in the pan will really help set you apart.
Great. Marlena?
Yeah, when I first started, I was really focused on just the instructional design process, the content creation process, but I really didn't appreciate or get a sense for the importance of building strong relationships and communication channels with your stakeholders and subject matter experts right from the beginning of a project. I think we, as designers, we get so excited about the design strategy or the development part of it, and being able to create animations and videos and all the fun things, that we really forget about the collaborative effort and what that looks like for us, right? Having clear communication with subject matters, with stakeholders, being able to connect with them, right? Being able to get them to trust your approach as well, or your design approach. That was a big thing that I really didn't consider in the beginning, of like how important that really is, and being able to not only connect with your learners, but really everyone that's involved in the project. There is going to be a lot of, what's the word here I'm looking for? There's going to be a lot of things you have to do just to kick off an e-learning course, right? Or just to finalize a project that you've been working on, which can be like scheduling meetings with your subject matter experts, meeting with stakeholders, addressing any issues. So there's so much of the communication part that I didn't consider initially, but I've gotten a lot better at it.
Thank you. Lizzie?
Marlena, you took mine. No, and you said it beautifully and probably much better than I could have. So I was going to make a comment about the importance of relationships and the importance of even customer service within the instructional design and learning design field. How you communicate with people and how you it's quite important, and arguably just as important as the design and the strategic part of what you're doing. Maybe to push that a little further, something I wish I had known is or that I was definitely I found out, is that it can be incredibly political in organizations about curriculum and how things are designed, and who owns the content or who's been trained. I mean, there's so many elements of politics that can come into play. And it's something that it's hard to teach that in a program like this. You kind of have to learn that for yourself. And I wish I had known maybe that as I was interviewing for these positions, sort of like what Andrew said earlier, that I had the power to vet the organization as well. Like I love the organization I work for now, so I'm not talking about that. But yeah, you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, and it really is important to take that into consideration.
That's great advice. Okay, and then this is our last planned question. So for those of you who are here live with us, if there are other questions that you have in mind that you want to pop in the chat, now would be a great time to do so. But for this question, what advice or tips do you have for current ID master's students or those considering an ID master's degree? And Lizzie, I'll have you start with this one.
My advice is to do it. No, if you're considering it, something that I will say is just, if you can tell that I'm coming from a little bit of a different place as Marlena and Andrew, but just that the field is so broad, and it's really, really valuable to learn a lot of the technical and theoretical skills in this program that has taken me so far in such a short period of time. For those who are currently in the program, just keep going and put one foot in front of the other, and try your hardest to connect back to your why as much as you can, and to enjoy it, because it's actually like, when I graduated, I missed the program. I missed the learning. I missed the classes. There was a bit of a grief there. So try as hard as you can to see the forest for the trees and enjoy the process, because it's a beautiful process.
Great. Marlena?
Yeah, I would like to say that it's adaptability and flexibility goes a long way. I come from a corporate setting, and that dynamic or that environment can be very fast-paced. So you have to be able to adapt to the different requirements and timelines and how priorities shift and all those things that come in the corporate setting. But I would also say just stay up to date with industry trends, because things are constantly changing. I know late last year, the biggest buzz was ChatGPT, and what does that look like, and how do we leverage it? Or, we don't leverage it at all, right? So just stay in tune with the current trends. It does go a long way, and it also helps you kind of position yourself in a way where you don't get burnt out or feel like things aren't exciting anymore. Like, create that excitement for yourself. Maintain, I would say, we're all lifelong learners. Like, this does not stop at the end of the program. You're going to continue to develop new skills, but always stay curious, seek opportunities to learn new skills. If you have the opportunity to go to DevLearn or ATD, do it. It's a great experience. You're always going to take at least one new thing or make one new connection. And it really builds that excitement. I know every time I come back from DevLearn or ATD conference, I always have like a ton of new ideas, and I'm super excited to go back to work. And honestly, sometimes you need that, because things can get a little mundane if you're doing the same thing. But yeah, stay curious.
Andrew?
So I have a two-parter, and it kind of mirrors what Lizzie and Marlena have had to say. But the first one is, if you're currently in the program, or if you're thinking about it, develop your brand and live your brand. And what I mean by that is, throughout the program, you're going to be learning all kinds of things: how to do e-learning, how to do LMS admin, how to create courses that are going to be facilitated by other people, or by yourself, or in person, or online. You got to figure out what you want to do and what you do really well, and how you shine. Because when it comes to capstone, you're going to get to put together a portfolio, and if you know what your brand is, your portfolio is just going to fall in place. You're going to be able to start plucking projects from your personal, from the coursework that you've done, as well as hopefully from your professional life. And it all just falls into place, and it's a whole lot easier. I didn't have a brand. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I ended up having to redo my portfolio, and it ended up beautiful. I was really happy with it. But you have to live it, and I think it helps you make better decisions when you jump out into the workforce as to what you want to do. You don't want to take a job that maybe isn't for you. And Marlena and Lizzie both mentioned that there are things from their L&D past that they were ready to retire. And I did the same thing. If I had to do one more homeowners adjuster class, new hire class, I was going to go bananas. So I decided I don't want to do any more live new hire classes, and I don't. My second thing is, once you have your brand and once you live it, make sure that when you are out in the workforce that you're demonstrating your value to the leaders. And that's not just your direct supervisor or to your team, but that make sure that who you are and what you bring to the organization really shines. Because this is a little bit of a hard reality right now, but the job market is not awesome. And L&D is one of the first places that gets cut, because a lot of times we are looked at as a liability rather than an asset. So if you can show the leaders that you bring something to the table, that your salary and your space in the organization helps them make money, you're going to protect your job, probably protect other people's jobs. And if not, you at least have something that you can go through to your next position and say what value you brought. If you just kind of show up and if you're kind of meek, like I was in the past, I would just do my projects and turn them in and say, okay, you do what you want with it. That anybody any good. So develop your brand, live your brand, and make sure that everybody understands what your brand brings to the table.
Great. Marlena?
I think.
Oh, did
I just want to follow up with. I just want to follow up with kind of a collective response to what our panelists have shared in response to this last question, and particularly with Andrew's comment about living your brand, if I've said that accurately. And that's one of the things that we do in Capstone. Like the first assignment, I think, is kind of identify out of all of the artifacts that you've created throughout the course or any side passion projects that you worked on, what are the ones that you really want to showcase that amplify who you are and what type of work you want to get paid to do? And so, we don't force you to put all of your projects on there because, as Lizzie pointed out, she got to a decision point where while she is very talented with graphic design and really has the design skills that an employer would desire in terms of putting together e-learning content, that's not where her passion lies in this broad, range of areas that you can go in our profession. So, it's Andrew said it well. I don't have to beat it down, but thank you so much for all of the comments that you shared and really just impassioned responses to the questions that we have. I'm over here, I was off camera, but I was geeking out over. I was like, yes, that's that course. And yes, we do provide these opportunities. And so I'm so thankful for your time today to share your perspective. And it sounds like it's over, but it's not over. There's still more. Christy will carry us into the next part of the session. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you. Yes, it looks like we have one question in the chat that this might be a good one to end on. Is favorite part of the program, maybe a favorite class? So Andrew, I'll start with you for that one.
Oh gosh, to pick a favorite class, that's hard.
Or a favorite part of the program, whatever you prefer.
This is kind of a geeky answer, but assets and artifacts was something that I absolutely loved because I'm not a very organized person. And it really showed you how to organize things, make sure that you're doing things like respecting copyright. There were tons of myths that were dissolved about what you can and can't do, about what you do and don't have access to. And just having that, I kind of went head to head with a business leader once who was like, just grab it from the internet. And no, we don't do that. And I was able to actually show them exactly what the law is because they kept saying fair use, fair use, fair use. And if you've been through the class, you'll know that that's not a thing for corporate environments. And I think that was one of my best, but the entire program, there was not a class that was not worth my time.
Marlena?
It's hard to name a specific, and I've had this question before. Somebody asked me, what was the hardest class? And I said, they're not. They're just, you're immersed into this learning space where it's everything you've ever wanted. Mm-hmm. So everything can be challenging, but you learn and you get so much out of it that it doesn't seem like that typical hard class. I really enjoyed LDT 520, when we did the deep dive into cognitive load and what that looks like for learners, we were able to apply Myers multimedia principles that I use to this day. And I really try to drive into my team, like, no, we have to follow this. But I also really like the opportunity of the continuous feedback. We did a lot of sessions. I want to say in each class, there was a point where we got to work with a peer and we would give each other feedback. And Dr. Evans put together just fantastic templates of like, this is how you're going to critique one another. Mm-hmm. And feedback is everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in a management position, a senior position, an entry-level position, you're going to get feedback. And I think the program really kind of opened the door to that and helped us build that. I wouldn't even say tough skin. It's more of a welcoming it, right? Being able to take the feedback and give feedback as well. So I really like that from the program.
Great. Lizzie? Oh, I think you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I did really enjoy the Advanced Learning Theories class. That was probably my favorite. It was something to, I felt like I was nerding out the whole time. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Because I was previously kind of toying with the idea of going into a psychology field. So I think that was just really fun for me. But the class where the learning media, where we did a deep dive into accessibility, was very transformational for me and has carried with me. I just showed the Accessibility 101 course that I created in that class to my current employer, and it's was not only a resource for them, but also was kind of a template for how we want to design some training materials for our consultants. I'm constantly pulling from things I've done in the program. So yeah, there's so much, but I think the Learning Theories class is my favorite.
That's great. Thank you. We've got a couple other questions in the chat that I'll address. One is about accepting French-speaking foreign students. We do accept international students. The program is taught entirely in English, but if you are applying from another country, there's just a different process, and there's some additional steps in the process to go through. So you can work with your enrollment advisor, and we can follow up with you to get your WES and EPEX, things like that. But yes, we do accept international students. And then the other question, and I'll let whoever wants to take this jump in, but Sarah's asking, how do you ensure sustainability in design?
I'll just share a little bit of my kind of practice in that. I incorporate into the program model whenever I'm developing a e-course, ILT, whatever it might be. I always ensure that we touch on that aspect of evaluating the success of the course or how it kind of tied to the improved performance of the learners and how we're going to make those adjustments to the course. So I always tie it into the evaluation portion of it, which typically will come like 30 days later, 2 weeks later. It depends what the business need is. But I would say making sure that you let the stakeholders and SMEs know that, hey, we're going to have to reevaluate the effectiveness of this course and how are we going to do that, really helps sustain the success of your program.
Great. And then we did get, sorry, did someone else want to jump in? Okay. We did get one more question, and we can go ahead and end on this, and then I'll wrap us up. But this question is, how do you find your brand when LD can be so diverse?
I think you just have to practice. You have to do it all and see what you like. So like for me, e-learning is where I really gravitated. But you have to jump into the LMS and understand that. And that's really actually important if you're going to do e-learning, because you kind of need to know what the capabilities of your LMS are. But you have to be in the classroom because you have to understand who your learners are. You have to understand kind of how to do stakeholder management, not just in general, but at the type of organization that you're working at. So you just got to jump in. If you're not already an L&D professional, try to immerse yourself in those roles. And if you just don't have that ability, I can't say enough how important I think it is to join your local ATD chapter. If you ask them for a volunteer opportunity, they will give you one. And then they will follow up and they will give you 2 and 3 and 4. And you will have an opportunity to touch every single aspect of it because it's hard to find volunteers. But it really helps you understand what it is that you like to do, where it is that maybe you have an opportunity, and gives you something to showcase.
Great. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that. And I can tell you, I don't know what my brand is exactly, but I'm still on that journey to figure it out. And what's really helped me kind of fine tune that a little bit is LinkedIn. Follow the people that you find interesting. Follow the people that do the things that you would like to do. If there's a learning and development specialist of some sort or instructional design specialist of some sort that you're like, oh, they do really cool e-learning, follow them. Chances are they have a YouTube channel, they have a podcast that you can listen to. That really helps you get ideas of what you want your brand to be.
And I would say, too, that we tend to be a professional community that is inviting more than kind of like pushing people away. It's, yes, there's probably some competition in the job market, but in general, in terms of being a supportive community, if you reach out in certain professional spaces online, you're likely to get a response. If you say, hey, I'm having this problem. How have you dealt with this? Or what tips do you have? Or what tools are you using? Or what resources? You're really likely to get a response and or at least see how those who've posted similar questions in the past, how the community has responded to them. So tends to be a very welcoming and inviting and supportive community.
Absolutely. If anybody has ever joined Articulate's eLearning Heroes Forum,
Yes.
I think that embodies what Dr. Evans just said, because first off, your question has already probably been asked. And when you look to see what questions are, and it doesn't have to be Articulate related at all, people ask all kinds of questions. But the number of folks who are willing to jump in and give really substantial responses and help out really speaks to the community.
Okay. Thank you all. Well, we'll go ahead and close this out. So again, we know a lot of you, a few of you here are current students, so you've already covered all of this ground. But for those of you who are just kind of getting started and looking at the program, we just wanted to go over a few details with you. Let me make this window a little smaller so you can see the whole page. Okay, so as we discussed at the beginning, we wanted to share a couple of additional details. So as you can see here, the LDT program is made up of 10 3-unit courses for a total of 30 academic units. This program is designed to be completed in 5 consecutive semesters over 20 months. Each semester is 14 weeks long, and students focus on 1 7-week class at a time. So this 100% online degree program really designed with working professionals in mind. And we do have 3 different starts each year in the spring, summer, and then the fall. And our next, so we want to highlight our summer 2024 class. Our next term is just around the corner. Our application deadline is coming up here on April 8th, and then classes would start on May 7th. So you've got some time to get your applications in the door by that April 8th deadline. Your enrollment advisors will be really the most helpful person to help you get everything completed. If you're not sure who your advisor is or you would like to be connected, go ahead and reach out to us and we will get you taken care of there. I'll go ahead and drop in the chat our email, and our website, so you guys can go ahead and reach out to us. They can provide an application waiver for you to help out with that. But thank you all again, Dr. Evans, our alumni panelists. We so appreciate your time. And then thank you all for tuning in as well today. We hope you enjoyed the session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.